It's live.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to share it.
הבאנו שלום עליכם, הבאנו שלום עליכם, הבאנו שלום עליכם, הבאנו שלום, שלום, שלום עליכם, הבאנו שלום עליכם, הבאנו שלום עליכם, הבאנו שלום עליכם, הבאנו שלום.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Meir Weinstein.
I'm Zazavili.
It's a pleasure to be with you this week. We have a lot to talk about. I'm going to ask everyone who's going to be joining us tonight, if you could please share this with the various groups and pages that you're part of. We'll reach a lot more people. There's been a lot going on every single week. There's more anti-Semitism, unfortunately. There's attacks against the Jewish, physical attacks. There's verbal assaults as well. So we're going to be talking about a lot today. Also, we're hoping that Rabbi Ox could join us and discuss the Parsha. There's a few technical issues, few glitches going on right now, but hopefully all that gets hammered out. Also, we have Alan Skorsky, who's going to be joining us as well. He has his own podcast, and also he's written a lot of books, a lot of good books on issues that we're very concerned about. Threats to the Jewish community, threats to Israel, the so-called progressive movement, their deep-rooted anti-Semitism. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about also, there was a basketball player that made some vile comments against Jews. We're going to talk about that. We're going to show the video. There was an issue of a Yemenite Arab in Detroit that entered a Jewish supermarket and started threatening Jewish shoppers there, approaching them, and it was just vile. We're going to be showing that. He considers himself such a personality on Instagram that for his anti-Semitism, he had over 700,000 likes. So we're going to be talking about that. We have some video on him as well. And I'm hoping the rabbi could join us in a moment so we could delve into the Parsha, because last Shabbat, we were in our shuls, in our synagogues, we were talking about, we were reading from the Torah about the golden calf, the sin of the golden calf, and who was responsible for the golden calf, who persuaded some of our people back then to follow in that direction and call for such an idol, such a desecration, such a change of policy instead of going the straight way, the way of God, the way of the Torah, the way of Moses, to go in a totally different direction. That was the Erev Rav that did that. According to the sages, according to Rashi, it was the Erev Rav. And who was the Erev Rav? The Erev Rav was this mixed multitude that came out of Egypt to join with the Jewish people. They saw the wonders that God was doing for the Jewish people and the direction Moses was leading the people in. And they thought they'd join the Jewish people. Well, Moses thought it would be a good thing that once they come to Mount Sinai and they see the revelation of the Torah, the giving of the Torah, that they will change and they will be good people and it will work out tremendous for us. It will be a blessing for us, for them, for everyone. It wasn't. Pharaoh also sent spies to be amongst the Jewish people as well to try to change the course, the direction, to gather information to be used against the Jewish people. And the Erev Rav, that's what their intention was, to do bad and evil for the Jewish people. We have problems today, and we're going to be talking about that. We have problems today that when you look at, for instance, groups like B'Tselem that actually testify at the Security Council at the United Nations against Israel. And they encourage the ICC to go after Israel. Forget about Syria. Forget about all these countries that commit genocides. But to go after Israel, after Israel responds to terrorism from Hamas. And they try to make it sound that Israel and Hamas are on equal footing even. It's unbelievable. So, B'Tselem, there was a recent article that came out about B'Tselem. Who funds B'Tselem? It's amazing. It's a Jewish name. It's a Hebrew name, B'Tselem. In the image. That's what it means. In the image of God. They supposedly take the moral high ground, that they have something to teach us, B'Tselem. So a recent article just came out a day ago. B'Tselem fuels Jew hatred with lies, and these are the donors who fuel B'Tselem. This is the Erev Rav. This is the Erev Rav today. Hopefully the rabbi will come on shortly and we can get into it in more detail, but it lists in this article donors. They receive their funding from Bread for the World, a nonpartisan Christian organization based in the United States, advocating for policy changes to end hunger. And they go after Jews. Catholic Relief Services, carrying out the commitment of bishops of the United States to assist the poor and vulnerable overseas. Christian Aid Ireland, another organization. Church of Scotland, another organization. The UCC, a distinct and diverse community of Christians coming together as one church to join faith in action with over 5,000 churches and nearly 1 million members across the U.S. They fund B'Tselem. Dan Church Aid, DCA, a Danish humanitarian, not-for-profit organization based in Copenhagen. They fund B'Tselem. European Commission, playing an active role in developing the European Union's overall strategy in designing and implementing European Union policies. European Endowment for Democracies, an independent grant-making organization founded in 2013. The Euro-Mediterranean Foundation of Support for Human Rights Defenders, another group funding B'Tselem. UNDP, United Nations Development Agency, helping to educate poverty. Yeah, they go after Jews. These organizations donate money big time to B'Tselem so that B'Tselem could put on the face that these are concerned Jews, so-called, going before the United Nations, going to the ICC, let's go after Israel. That's the Erev Rav. That's what happened back then during the period of time when the Jews left Egypt. The poor innocent Egyptians, right? Who were murdering Jews. Like the poor innocent Nazis who murdered 6 million Jews that, some bleeding heart will say, I hope you don't have anything against Germans or Europeans, right? Give me a break. Looks like there's something with the screen.
Glitch.
A glitch? Is it frozen?
Looks frozen there, but yeah, it's frozen.
Isn't that strange? Do we have to reboot this?
Yes, he's saying yes.
Reboot it.
A refresher, maybe?
Yeah. background. Okay, so hang on, let me just get rid of the screen. Sorry about that, folks. Just a little glitch technology for you, isn't it?
It's an old building.
After we get into good stuff. So
Yeah.
last night, I interviewed a gentleman from Detroit who's been interviewed already about that incident that occurred in Detroit, Michigan, where a Yemenite Arab went into a Jewish supermarket and started accosting Jews. So we have a video of that. We could show that. And then we'll have Alan come on and we'll discuss it in greater detail. We'll show some videos also. So if we could show the clip from last night.
Sure, I'll go ahead and I'll show the slide first so we know who he is. Then I'll play the video. So here we go.
Very good. Yeah, that's who Aaron is, who I interviewed last night.
Mhm.
Okay, the video should come up. Hi, good evening. It's Mayor Weinstein with the Never Again Live show. I'm joined with Aaron Tobin from Detroit, who's a firearms instructor, also very involved with the Zionist Organization of America. And we're going to be talking about an anti-Semitic punk that went to a Jewish supermarket and started I would say, engaging in anti-Semitic rhetoric with Jewish shoppers. And we have a little clip that we're going to show right now, and Aaron will respond to this. He's been interviewed before about this, and he has a good knowledge of the location and exactly what took place. So if we could first show the little video of this anti-Semitic punk.
Yep.
Say it.
No, thank you.
Can you read it out loud? No. Why? Can you read this?
Yeah.
What does it say? What does it say?
Are you here to shop?
Yeah.
What else do you need? What else do you need?
Can you read it?
Hello, what else do you need?
Can you read this?
It's not, you want to be removed?
I just wanted to read it, that's it.
Here, I read it. Here. There is no Palestine.
يلعن امك
يلعن عمك.
يلعن عارك يلعن شكلك. There is Palestine, حبيبي.
So what?
There is Palestine.
So what?
Y'all hear that? Y'all hear that shit?
What are you talking to yourself?
No, I'm talking to the camera. There's
What? You're not even look at you.
There's no Israel. Look, I'm wearing.
But beautiful.
Al-Aqsa. It's the truth. Free Palestine. It
So
is.
what? Who cares?
What do
like
you
you have
care?
nothing to do in
You
your
don't
life.
care. You don't care.
You
But I
come to
care. Free Palestine.
Okay, so Aaron, the guy's name is Abdullah, goes by another name on social media, Abdullah Mala, has a large following on social media. He had about 700,000 likes for that clip. He makes it clear that he's targeting Jews. He writes that on his social media. He's from Yemen. What could you tell us about what took place? You know the area, you know the community there. What could you tell us?
Well, this is, it used to be called One Stop Kosher Market. Now it's called The Grove. There's a few Grove markets in multiple cities. It's a one-stop kosher market. You can get anything you need there, from soup to nuts. And this is where the vast majority of the Jewish community buys their kosher products or shops for their food. And he walked in there looking to make a sensationalized video for, I guess, his YouTube or his Twitter, Instagram followers. And he was actually, in a sense, terrorizing shoppers because they were very offended and didn't know how to handle this being approached in this, in what should be a safe environment. Here's a woman by herself. I don't know if she had her kids with her, but she's shopping for her bread, her eggs, maybe a gallon of milk, and wants to go home. And here she is accosted by this guy shoving his phone in her face, asking her, demanding that she read this, and then getting upset when she doesn't. So he's definitely trying to intimidate and terrorize, to a degree, the Jewish shoppers that were there. These are Jews that are American Jews living in the suburbs of Detroit. These are not people involved with the government in Israel. These are not people that have any say in the day-to-day runnings of the state of Israel or what happens in Gaza.
Right, exactly. And apparently he's from Yemen, and we know that the Houthis in Yemen are very anti-Semitic. In fact, they have a slogan, death to Israel, curse the Jews. And he's from Yemen. So it seems like it's part of the upbringing from many who are from Yemen. We have a little clip from Memory regarding kids, how they're indoctrinated and what they're saying in Yemen right now. If we could show that clip and then you could respond.
جئنا نزور إلى هؤلاء الشهداء، نرسل رسالة لهؤلاء الأعداء، نقول لهم أننا حاضرون مع أي مواجهة للأعداء سواء في الداخل أو في الخارج، حاضرون للتضحية، مشتاقون للشهادة، وأسلحتنا التي ذاقوا منا طعمها وعرفوا في الميدان شدة بأسها لا زالت بأيدينا، إن عادوا عدنا وعاد الله معنا، ولا نقول لهم إلا ما قال علي بن الحسين: أبالموت تهددوننا يا أبناء الطلقاء، أما علمتم بأن القتل لنا عادة وكرامتنا من الله شهادة. Aaron, how large is I don't know if you know, the support for the Houthis in Detroit? It's a large Islamic community there.
Well, Dearborn, Michigan, which is about 15 minutes, 20 minutes away from Oak Park, Michigan, has the largest Arab population outside of the Middle East. The largest Arab population outside of the Middle East is 15 minutes away from us in Dearborn, Michigan. We know for a fact they have Hamas operatives, they have ISIS operatives, they have fundraisers for various PLO organizations. They have a summer camp here in Michigan where their kids are taught to shoot weapons, machine guns, ARs, various weapons, and The boys and girls are taught to go out to campuses like Michigan State University of Michigan, Wayne State University, and lead BDS and an anti-Israel propaganda on campuses. So I kind of doubt this kid has ever been to Yemen. His parents are probably from Yemen. He lives in his parents' basement, either in Dearborn or St. Clair Shores.
Right.
He is, like you said, he's a punk. But the problem that you run into with kids like these and people that are so viciously anti-Semitic, Jew haters. Anti-Semitic is a term the Anti-Defamation League likes. Let's call it what it is, and it's Jew hatred. This guy wasn't going in to have a conference with some diplomats from Israel. This guy was talking to American citizens that were Jews, and he hates them because they are Jews.
Right.
One of the biggest problems is that ISIS and these other Arab terrorist groups like Hamas are very popular on social media, and they are very sophisticated in using social media to recruit members and to use it as a tool to find targets. And I don't like that they're able now to see how easy it was for him to walk into the grocery store. He did edit out a lot of the confrontations. He made it look like he was a big hero and he got in bases, but he was confronted, but in a nice way, because we are Detroiters here. We're the Midwest, and we're not rude to people. So we were told, most people just said no thank you and walked away, but he was confronted a couple. He did leave the Israeli at the end, who did confront him and told him there is no Palestine. But the biggest problem is what ISIS, what Hamas, and other PLO organizations will do with this video. And I don't want them to see us as a weak target, as a soft target, as it's called in the business, like the grocery store in Paris that was invaded by, in 2015, where Muslim Arab terrorists came in and killed Jews because they were Jews.
Yes.
And then in 2019, in Jersey City, New Jersey, again, Arab Muslims came in to kill Jews in a grocery store. These people shopping in Oak Park in the grocery store and in Southfield, Michigan, they remembered these attacks. They saw the blood on the floor in the grocery store. It triggered that memory right away. And I wanted to make clear to this young man and to the Arabs that might be watching this, and if ISIS and other PLO groups like Hamas are watching this, Detroit is not a soft target. I'm a CPL instructor. I've taught, there was at least 3 people in that store that were armed, and I had taught them personally. And we are, the Orthodox Jewish community in Detroit is armed, and we are willing to defend ourselves and our family and our institutions. And if anybody has any ideas of coming to Detroit to cause any problems, they will be met with the appropriate force to stop whatever nefarious plans they have.
It's according to the FBI, according to all police agencies, the Jewish community in the United States, in Canada, worldwide, is the most targeted group for hate. When you mentioned Paris, I'm reminded of the attack that happened at the Jewish supermarket in Paris where they murdered Jews. I'm reminded that Jen Psaki, who's now the spokeswoman for press secretary for President Joe Biden, she was also the press secretary for Obama back then when that occurred. And she played it down deliberately, making that it was not an anti-Semitic attack. And the Obama regime played it down that it was not an anti-Semitic attack. So we're like on our own, that we have to take care of ourselves, because the so-called progressive movement, it seems, will not call out anti-Semitism, especially where it comes from. It is so rooted in so many Islamic countries. They teach it. It's exposed regularly by organizations like Memory and other organizations that do great work. But sometimes when you even try to expose this, you're being accused of being an Islamophobe. So Jewish blood is not cheap, is the message with the progressives. Shut up and don't say anything. But we can't do that. We have a clip of a basketball player from the Miami Heat, who today on a live broadcast made a vicious anti-Semitic statement. Let's run that. Let's get your reaction, because this is really alarming. It's happening on a daily basis. Jews are being targeted. He uses the word kikes for Jews. I think if there was a basketball player that used the N-word against the black community, I don't think he'd last a half an hour after it was known publicly. And right now, they're still debating what to do with this player when it comes to Jews. It's unbelievable. So what is the feeling in the Detroit Jewish community after this happened at the market? What do you hear in the shuls? What do you hear from the community? Because it must have gone around.
Well, it did go around, and my previous, I was interviewed on another podcast, but I've been on the news here in the past also. Things related to the Jewish community and defending the Jewish community and the land in Israel. When there were massive protests this summer with Black Lives Matters, Antifa, they were burning down cities, they were burning down suburbs, they were defacing synagogues. Several people in the community called me and said, Aaron, what are we going to do here? We're very close to the black community physically, and Dearborn is 15 minutes away. So I got 25 Jewish men together. Some of us are concealed pistol holders and some are not. And I coordinated with the city, the police departments in Oak Park, Southfield, and West Bloomfield. And we told them, we're going to be your eyes and ears for the next few nights. We're going to be watching the synagogues, the Jewish stores, anything with a Jewish flavor, most of the synagogues and yeshivas, and the Jewish schools. And we posted guards mostly in our cars, watching the facilities until about 5 or 6 in the morning. And we did that for 3 nights until things started to calm down. Thankfully, nothing happened in Detroit. We might have stopped one assault on a yeshiva where at about 2 in the morning, a car pulled into the yeshiva lot, which is very unusual. And then when he saw me sitting there, he started asking me for directions. Like, you got 4 or 5 people in the car and none of you have Waze or Google Maps? It was very suspicious. And so people are concerned, but there is a lot, most of I think the Jewish community, I would say here, is concerned, and they're taking some action. As a concealed pistol license instructor, if I was able to work 24/7, I would have students, because right now people are afraid of the climate. The defund the police thing is ridiculous. Now in New York, the mayor's wife is asking people to intercede. Like, wait, you had police to intercede. I'm a private citizen. You want me to go out when a guy's pulling a knife on another guy and step in? And what authority? Under what authority do I have? What's my liability now? So people, it's crazy times as far as self-defense. And I teach in my class, you are your own first responder. You are your own first responder. It might be a while till anybody comes and helps you when something happens. Most of the time when something happens, people say 2 things. I never expected it to happen to me, and I was all by myself. There was nobody there for me. So people are arming themselves. They're taking classes. They're taking self-defense. They're taking advanced courses. I've taught 3 people from various synagogues to be able to carry on Shabbos and holidays, and they are carrying. And it's a higher level of carry. I don't recommend that somebody just carries to the synagogue unless they know the basic fundamentals about what happens in a crowd situation. You have to know what is your target and what is beyond your target. I think people that carry in public should at least practice once a month or twice a month before you carry in a synagogue type situation. But I would say most of the rabbis here are friendly towards people either carrying or having an armed guard in the synagogue.
Good.
But unfortunately, what happens with time is people get lulled into a sense of security. They forget what the riots that happened only a few months ago. They forget the shootings that happened in 2015 and 2019 in the grocery stores. they get complacent, and then boom, it happens again. So we have to be ever vigilant.
Absolutely.
And something like this basketball player that could say "kike bitch" and get away with it.
Yep.
If anyone would have used the N word and said "N bitch," their career would be over. There would be nobody investigating and let's look into this and let's form a panel. Over. All his endorsements, anything would be over. The guy would never play basketball again. He'd be somewhere in Brazil on some Brazilian basketball team. So we have to be ever vigilant. And thank you to this basketball player for reminding us about the Jew hatred that is a constant in this country. But thankfully, we have it fairly well. And we do have the rights in most of our states. Unfortunately for our friends in New Jersey, our friends in Canada, our friends in Paris, they can't carry a concealed weapon like we can in Michigan right now.
Right.
So be ever vigilant. And thanks for the reminder, Mr. Basketball Player.
Let me ask you, have any politicians in Detroit or Michigan spoken out against that anti-Semitic punk from Yemen?
No, we have, no. Let's just say no. And I doubt they're going to.
I think you have Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib in.
Yeah, she's in Dearborn. She's 15 minutes from me. Exactly. She is one of the biggest Jew haters there is. She's not speaking. If anything, she's going to have this guy over for lunch, and they'll share a few laughs together.
Yeah,
we have a Congressman Levin.
Okay.
He's horrible. He's Jewish and absolutely worthless as far as the what he does for the Jewish community and for Israel. He's actually turned into an anti-Israel BDS supporter. He's it's a shame what he's become.
Enemies from
really
within.
Taking a sharp turn left.
Yes. Listen, Aaron, I want to thank you very much. We're going to show this tomorrow night on our show. We have some people watching it live right now as we speak, but we're going to be uploading this to our show that's live tomorrow night. We have a phone in. People will be calling. It's just unfortunate that you're not available for the Wednesday night show. You got commitments. But I want to thank you for coming on. We'll have you on more often on our show. We have it every Wednesday night. We might expand it to have it a couple times a week. And we're dedicated to exposing the threats to the Jewish community and speaking the truth.
Thank you for having me. To people watching, be vigilant, be active, don't be afraid to speak out. The biggest thing that these people hate are being exposed for what they are and shining the light on them, the light of truth. And all these liberals that say, oh, you got to be kind to everybody, and if you think you're one thing, you should be respected for something. How about a little respect for the Jewish people? You know, we've been around for a few thousand years. Your justice system is based on our justice system. How about a little respect for the Jews and stop calling us kike bitches and coming into our grocery stores terrorizing us? So be vigilant, be proud, and good luck to you all. Thank you for having me.
Great message
we're
from this
back.
guy.
Yeah. Good guy.
I like what he says.
Good
He's
guy.
right.
Good
Hey, I
guy.
want to show a quick little video of this punk just to show how he feels he's untouchable and he can say things like this in a
anti-Semitism, anti-Semitism, activism عنده أمك.
I'm not even sure what he's talking about, but I want to make one final closing comment. It's kind of like a word from our sponsor. People are asking about carrying and where you should carry, where you shouldn't. How do you carry in synagogue? So a quick word from our sponsor.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, that's the message.
Back in Toronto. See you guys later.
Okay.
Bye, Gary. You know
Okay,
what?
so
That's the
we
message.
have Alan Skorsky, who has his own show as well.
Yep.
And he's written books. We have him with us. He's got the definitive rap. I like it. And he's very knowledgeable. So we're going to bring him on. We're going to be talking about more of this issue. Also, he's written a lot about groups like J Street, the New Israel Fund, those people who, again, are used by the Erev Rav European Union and all these
Absolutely. Same.
anti-Semitic organizations that want to use a so-called Jewish organization as a front for
Right.
them.
It's like their identity,
Yeah.
and that's their tool.
Yeah, and their mechanism for working for the destruction of Israel. Alan, what can you add?
Welcome, Alan.
Well, first of all, thank you both so much for having me.
Thank you.
Great interview with Aaron Tobin last night.
Yes.
But most of all, Meir, I have to say you have a very sharp tie.
Thank you.
We're
What do you
commenting, actually. Very nice.
You have a nice one too.
Yeah, there you go. And I want to also commend your director there. You guys have a really nice operation going here. So good for you. Great guests, and
Getting
God
better.
bless you guys for the work that you do.
Mhm.
So it's funny because I grew up in Michigan, and I grew up 2 blocks behind that supermarket.
Mhm.
So when it first happened, I was calling around asking my friends who was there and how did you let this happen? But it reminds me of, this is sadly the Detroit mentality. They are very Midwestern. They're not used to the confrontation. I live in New York now. So even though I still consider myself to be a Michigander, but there is a difference between how Detroiters respond and how New Yorkers respond.
Right.
And I'll leave it at that.
I remember years ago in the 80s, I was very involved in hunting Nazi war criminals. And they were not only in Canada, but they were in the United States. And I worked with a team, actually a very good private investigator who lived in Detroit. And the focus of attention then was on the Iron Guard and their leader, Valerian Trifa. Do you remember, since you grew up in?
You know what? It's been a while. When I was there, I went to Wayne State, and I left about 30 years ago.
Okay.
But so my activism actually started as a pro-Israel student at Wayne State University.
Okay.
I'm not that familiar with the Nazi hunting aspect, though I say kudos to you for doing that. I'm fascinated by the work that people like you do. A couple of years ago, I met Beata and Sarge Klarsfeld. They were here in the Hamptons, so I got a chance to meet them. But what people like you have done, it's incredible work, and we can't thank you enough for that, because too many people.
They've done incredible work. One of the main cases they responsible for, I believe, was Cos Barbie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My professor at Wayne State University was last name was Dabringhouse, and he was the U.S. sergeant who actually interrogated Klaus Barbie.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Well, great. Listen, you associate with good people. So, getting back to the Parsha, we talked about the golden calf and who is responsible for that, and that was like going on a path of destruction. You're never going to enter into Israel, period, if you're going to follow the golden calf moving forward today. I went through the list of some of the organizations bent on the destruction of Israel and the funding, who funds these organizations. You've written a lot about these organizations. What can you tell us?
So right before the last presidential elections, going back to 2016, I wrote Israel Betrayed. And basically, it was covering the Obama years and how the Democrats, since Oslo, really turned on Israel. What most people have forgotten, remember, the younger generation today, they don't remember Yasser Arafat's PLO. What they remember is Mahmoud Abbas. They know that the Palestinians, they know about checkpoints, they know about walls, they know about Israeli military superiority and constantly being fed. And you had the Obama administration saying we're going to create daylight between Israel and the United States. You had Obama going to the University of Cairo and making a speech and making a moral equivalence between the Holocaust and the Palestinians. Then you had the influence of J Street. Now, Jeremy Ben-Ami, who leads J Street, he worked with the Clinton administration. Okay, and you had Dennis Ross and you had Martin Indyk, and they were pushing the Oslo Accords. And in his book, The Missing Piece, Dennis Ross wrote a book. It was over 800 pages long, and he admits the Clinton administration ignored all of the Palestinian violations because they wanted a peace treaty before he left. And every time there was a terror attack against Israel, Clinton would lean on Rabin and say, don't let the terrorists have this victory. And every time the Israelis retaliated, he would tell Israel, make another concession to the Palestinians to show that you're serious. So it was heads I win, tails you lose. And it was always Israel that was losing. And even though Rabin was part of the Labor Party, he was not as squishy as some of the leftists were. Before Oslo, it was Yossi Sarid, Yossi Balin, who had worked behind the scenes and kind of blindsided Rabin, who kind of, I guess, grudgingly went along saying, okay, I'll give this thing a shot. But he was ready to pull out. And then you had the ADL who got involved. And I remember after the Oslo Accords were signed, Arafat went on his tour through Arab countries calling for increased jihad. So Abe Foxman said, cool your jets. If people ask you, tell them that you meant a spiritual jihad, a religious jihad, because this violence thing isn't going to play well in the West or with Jewish communities. You mentioned the Jewish group. So Peter Beinart is an absolute, and again, and I don't get hyperbolic, he is an absolute cancer on the Jewish community. And I've written about him. I read his book, The Crisis of Zionism, where he says American Jews spend too much money on Holocaust museums, not enough money on Jewish education, and we haven't learned the lessons of the Holocaust. He has frequently made comparisons between Israeli treatment of Palestinians and the Nazis. He has chided all of our Jewish holidays. He says, the Jews, we were saved from Haman and Purim, but then we go out and we eat and we drink. And so he has a real issue with Judaism, with Orthodox Judaism. He says, when we left Egypt, we took all of the booty from the Egyptians. So he has a real deep-seated dislike for what Judaism represents. And he is a poison. He speaks at J Street. He speaks at the New Israel Fund. He spoke at Ramaz years ago, and he wanted them to invite Rashid Khalidi to speak. And then when there was blowback, the principal said, we have to disinvite him. And Beinart then called out Ramaz saying, what, are you afraid to hear from the Palestinians? J Street, again, you know about them, of course. They, in the book I write, Alan Dershowitz had covered them. And he said going through all of their press releases, not one press release was ever pro-Israel. Their whole agenda is not only to undermine AIPAC, which is at best a centrist organization, but somehow they got painted as a right-wing organization because they don't hate Netanyahu. In the meantime, J Street has given the Democrats all the cover they want. Said, vote against Israel, we'll give you cover. They endorse candidates who vote against Israel, who voted for the Iran nuclear deal. But as long as they say they support two states, that's enough. Now, of course, when we were growing up, two states meant, we didn't know what it meant really, but we meant a Jewish state and a Palestinian state. Today, it means the 1967 borders, which was never even negotiable in the first place. But this is where the Democrats have gone. And today, you have the squad. And the Jewish left will say, well, they're just four voices. No, they're just the four loudest voices. There are 96 members of the Progressive Caucus. Out of 220 Democrats in the House, 96 are the Progressive Caucus. Do the math. It's not 50%, but it's damn close to it. This is how far left the Democrats have gone. Barack Obama normalized it. He normalized Elizabeth Warren. He normalized Linda Sarsour and Bernie Sanders and the squad. And this is where we are today.
What do you see as what is the Jewish community in the United States doing to delegitimize, let's call it that, J Street and the so-called progressive?
Nothing.
Nothing.
We suck, okay? We all know that Facebook, is not a very clean place, and sometimes you have to take a shower after you finish on Facebook. Right. Twitter is even worse. So I go on Twitter because I want to monitor what Peter Beinart says, what Code Pink says, what If Not Now, Jewish Voice for Peace, Trua. The Jewish left is so organized, and they've been normalized. Remember, before Barack Obama became president, Bernie Sanders was considered a Vermont socialist fringe kook. Today, he has power in the Democrat Party. In 2016, the Democrats gave him 4 selections to the DNC Platform Committee. All 4 of his choices were BDS supporters, including Cornel West, Jim Zogby from Detroit, a very powerful Arab American activist.
That's
I
right.
forget who the two words, it doesn't even matter anymore.
Yes.
But no, the American community is in awful shape. When you have 75% who vote Democrat, and as I've said this many times about Donald Trump, you may not like his style. I understand that. But he was so pro-Israel. And in my book, I predicted that if he wins, and if he carries out his pro-Israel agenda the way we think he will, you will see the Jewish left attack him like never before. And damned if I wasn't right. They hated him for being pro-Israel. They hated him for being in bed with Netanyahu. And they resented that he supported Netanyahu, who didn't grab his ankles for Barack Obama. So the Jewish left, their support for Israel is out of political expediency. They weaponize anti-Semitism. You look at, her name is Haley Sofer. She runs the Democratic Jewish Council, whatever they call themselves. And she actually compared Donald Trump to Hitler. She said that his style is comparable to what we saw in the 1930s in Germany. You have someone like Devorah Lipstadt from Atlanta, who is considered a Holocaust scholar, who has now weaponized anti-Semitism. She wrote that questioning the legitimacy of the elections is comparable to questioning the Holocaust. Now, what do you do when people like her come out and they weaponize anti-Semitism, when they start to invoke and trivialize Nazi imagery? When that happens, what do we have left? And I told all my Jewish friends who voted for Trump, the left will try and vote shame you. Never let them. Don't apologize for voting for Donald Trump. He tweets a lot. He's thin-skinned. That's his issue. But we have to stand proudly with him because he stands with us. At every one of his rallies, remember, his rallies were 30, 40, 50,000 people. He always spoke about support for Israel, and he condemned anti-Semitism. Unlike Democrats, who they support Israel when they're speaking at AIPAC or when they're speaking at a yeshiva dinner. You will never see Joe Biden or any Democrat speak out to a non-Jewish audience and tell them that we support Israel or that we condemn anti-Semitism, unless, of course, it's David Duke's anti-Semitism. If you remember last month in Washington, when the Democrats want to strip Marjorie Taylor Greene of her committee assignments. Steny Hoyer, the majority leader of the party and considered a longtime friend of the Jewish community, had a big poster of the Squad. And he said of them, you may not disagree, you may not agree with their policies, but they are basically good people. Okay? Meir, what is there left to say when you have the majority leader of the Democrat Party saying that the Squad members are basically good people?
But we fight 24/7, 24/6. No, we on Shabbos is a way to fight anti-Semitism too. And when you have these groups, if not now, J Street, J Space over here, I mean they're embracing the ICC.
Right.
They're embracing always Israel at fault. Always. We have a slogan that we live by, never again, and that's it. There were capos then, but I guess it was different. They were under such kind of duress.
Correct.
Today, their free will,
right,
jumping leaps and bounds to the tune of free Palestine, get rid of Israel. The Jews have no right to have even a grain of soil. It's unbelievable that in the Torah, throughout the Torah, the land of Israel, the land of Israel, the land of Israel, the Exodus from Egypt to the land of Israel. Passover is coming up in a couple, by the end of this month, and we're going to be talking about next year in Jerusalem. It's all about Israel, our faith. And not only that, but Christianity, its roots came from Judaism. Jesus was Jewish. He was born it says in their Bible, the Christian Bible, it says he was born in Bethlehem, which is in Judea. There was no Palestine. He lived in northern Israel most of his life. And then he went on his pilgrimage to Jerusalem, to the temple, the Jewish temple he went to. It was not the Al-Aqsa Mosque. This anti-Semitism is baseless, but yet they love it. the anti-Semites love it because they feel, I guess, guilty that we have the truth and we say we have the truth. Even if we don't even say that loudly or quietly, whatever, our very being is an affront to the truth of Islam or a lot of Christianity. There are some Christians that now embrace the Jewish people in Israel and support Israel, and they're on record apologizing for the anti-Semitism throughout the ages in that. And there's some great people, Kufi, Christians United for Israel, and Pastor Hagee, and there's others, and we appreciate that. And they're honest people, and I've met some of these very good people. They come out to some of our protests, great people. But, I read a list that you have still, this like traditional European church-led anti-Semitism merging with an Islamic anti-Semitism, that they can't stand the idea of a small little tiny Jewish state amongst an Arab or Islamic Middle East. But because of President Donald Trump, he brought peace, and it seems like a warm peace with some Arab and Islamic countries. That should be something that should be embraced, even by, you would think, the progressive crowd. They would say this is a wonderful thing. Instead, they're condemning it.
Right. But this is who they are, though, because first of all, the fact that Donald Trump was behind it is an affront to them. That they did it with Bibi Netanyahu in office is an affront to them. The fact that, the Palestinians are left out of it. And remember, who did they make peace with? They made peace with the Gulf states, and so these are the oil-rich people, and this is who the progressives always hate. For some reason, we had Jonathan Tobin as a guest last week on our show, and I said to him, okay, so yes, we know that Saudi Arabia doesn't really have a great human rights record, but neither does Iran. Iran is even worse. But again, you cannot explain the logic of being a progressive. Their very being is living a tortured, dishonest, conflicting life. They have to wake up every day. Remember, these are people who think that America is systemically a racist country, which means that they have to wake up every morning with anger and hate. And who do you lash out? Well, you lash out at capitalism. You lash out at people who are people of faith. You lash out at our military. So what does Israel represent? They represent an extension of America. They represent a strong military. They represent religion, the Kotel. So everything that Israel stands for is an affront to progressive secular values. And that's why today, we have the situation where we are. And today, the greatest enemies of Israel are the Jewish left. They are the ones who rallied behind Linda Sarsour. When you had the shooting in Pittsburgh several years ago, and you had Linda Sarsour was there, and you had Peter Beinart and George Soros' son, Alex Soros, from Bend the Arc, saying, Donald Trump, you're not welcome here. And how did the news report it? Jewish groups told Donald Trump, you can't come here. Who defends Rashida Tlaib? Who defends Mark Lamont Hill? That's Peter Beinart. So, we are in trouble because we proud, Torah observant, and whether you're modern Orthodox, I don't care. But basically, we are people, whose values are rooted in the Torah, who have a connection to Israel and what Israel means to us. As I tell people, yes, I'm an American. America is my country, but Israel is in my soul. I got a Jewish education. I'm connected to Israel. I understand what Israel means to the world. And I always tell my friends, who they're learning their way around politics, that Israel is not some welfare state that benefits from America's generosity. Israel is the one country in the Middle East that keeps stability there. Israel, behind the U.S. and China, has the most companies in NASDAQ. They are a leader in science, medicine, technology. Ask the millions of Africans who are feeding themselves today because of Israeli technology and agriculture. It's not coming from the Palestinians or any Arab country. The world has benefited so much from Israel's ingenuity and generosity. If you look at, you can look on YouTube for the when Israel went into, when you had the whole Haiti hurricane, and all these countries went in to set up these little mini hospitals. Everyone said that that the Israeli set up hospital was a miracle. They saved lives, and they couldn't believe how advanced and how sophisticated Israel's medicine was, because this is what Israel deals with. All of our military secrets come because Israel is at the forefront of combating terrorism. Iron Dome, the Patriot missile, everything that they're working on, America benefits from that, as does the West. But of course, you have European, and they have their own brand of anti-Semitism that you just can't wrap your head around. They are the first ones to want to do a deal with Iran because for them it's all about money. Democrats want to do a deal with Iran because it's anti-Israel or against what the Republicans believe in. Who the hell knows? I mean, how do you explain what John Kerry thinks or how he thinks? Remember, he's the one who said that there is no peace without the Palestinians.
Israel and Arab countries, unless they embrace this two-state solution, there is peace now. Correct. In fact, I believe, I think in a few days, Netanyahu has a meeting set up with the Prince of Saudi Arabia.
Yep.
Yeah, we're reading that.
Do you imagine? I mean, what's going on? It was Saudi Arabia that was the leader of the Arab League that sponsored all the anti-Semitism, that actually started the Holocaust denial material even. They did. They funded it. They funded, I don't know if you know, this organization that existed years ago in Washington, Liberty Lobby.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had the Institute for Historical Review, the main group with the Holocaust analysis, all Arab money behind that operation. And now Saudi Arabia is it's happening now in our times. Peace with Saudi Arabia and Israel and cooperation and a warm peace. They've deleted from a lot of their curriculum in their schools anti-Semitism. It's not perfect yet, but it's certainly moving in the right direction. In Iran, they're burning Israeli flags. They're stomping on Israeli flags. They have Al-Quds Day calling for the destruction of Israel. They signed their missiles saying death to Israel.
Right.
And we're supposed to embrace Iran and say, forget about the Saudis, forget about the Gulf states, let Israel be on their own, let them be humiliated. Jew hatred's okay. Don't worry, we're not going to yell it out at the top of our lungs, but let it be said. And we're supposed to buy this this BS.
You know, earlier you showed videos from memory. There's another organization that I know you're familiar with called Palestinian Media Watch.
Right.
They monitor everything that comes out of the Palestinian territories. That right there alone is enough evidence to show Joe Biden or anybody the Palestinians are not serious. They are the ones who continue. Their education curriculum continues to teach Palestinians about the glory of martyrdom and whatever flowery language they use, that their blood will plant the seeds of whatever it is. Their media outlets, they, as you know, the pay to slay. Their leaders saying that the Oslo Accords were just a ruse, or all of Israel is occupied Palestine, and it's one step at a time. There is nothing. Israel could just sit back and just send the Biden administration, here's what the Palestinians are saying. It's like, you trying to sell me a house, and I say, I really want your house, and someone shows me how the pipes are about to burst, the ground is about to collapse underneath. What do you want? This is not Israelis, speaking out of fear. The Palestinians are telling you themselves they have no interest in that. Their final objective is the destruction of Israel. And now with the upcoming elections that they're claiming they're going to have in the Palestinian territories, Hamas is going to be running as well. So really, what's Joe Biden running to? What's his administration? Those who he's nominated to his cabinet who are all pro-Palestinian and anti-Israel, how are they even going to, what case are they going to make for the Palestinians after they've already been exposed as being completely opposed to the existence of a Jewish Israeli state?
Anthony Blinken, Jewish, married in a church.
And he's the best one of them all yet.
Yeah.
There you go.
You know what? The Palestinians don't hide their hatred. They don't hide it. Their media, their schools. I mean, they never hide it. Never, ever do they hide it. And the Americans just eat it up like nothing. Nothing.
So
They
here's something
barely.
interesting. 2 weeks ago, we interviewed a gentleman by the name of Ashraf al-Jabari. You look him up. He's a Palestinian from Hebron. and he has done many interviews. He works with the Israeli Chamber of Commerce. He has worked with David Friedman. His philosophy, and he's anti-PA. He said the Palestinians are corrupt. He said that the attacks about Israel not giving vaccinations to the president is all a lie. He says the way you make peace is by bridging, by working together, creating business opportunities, and this is the way to make peace. And he's done many interviews with Israeli media. He was fantastic. The fun thing about an interview was when I wrote him on Facebook, he wrote back to me in perfect English. So I thought he's fluent in English. I started watching his YouTube videos. Everything is either in Arabic or Hebrew. So in the morning I asked him, "Do you speak English?" And he says, "Well, I want to do the whole thing in Hebrew." That my show is based out of America. So we gave him all the questions in English.
Yeah.
He answered everything in English. And then on the show, we would ask him in English. He would answer in Hebrew.
Yeah.
And I know Hebrew, but I'm not fluent, but he was going off script. So I just kept saying, I hope that my audience really isn't following too close. Now we'll translate what he was going to say. But there are individual Palestinians who are fed up with the PA. However, it's not my job to go and seek out the one good one here, the one good one there. We are dealing with a Palestinian entity, a Palestinian movement. They are all over America, all over North America. I see what's happening in Canada, in Toronto, Mississauga. I see what's happening in Montreal. We have it all over our college campuses here, whether it's in California, whether it's Berkeley, whether it's at Columbia. It's everywhere. I don't know if you saw the video. This is several years ago. Ami Horowitz. He's fantastic.
Yes.
So he went to Berkeley. The little experiment, waving the ISIS flag.
Yep.
Everybody walk by, give him a thumbs up.
Yep.
Then he waves the Israeli flag, the middle finger, the FUs, all this stuff here. College campuses are a breeding ground for anti-Semitism. It's the student body. They're financed. They're trained. Jewish students are outnumbered, and Jewish students don't go to college for political activism. They go there to make their parents happy, to go to parties, to get beer, to meet a woman, and to get an education. They're not there for political combat. You have staffs, whole departments on these campuses. You had the Edward Said department. I think it was Columbia. It's everywhere. It's at Harvard. It's at Yale. So if you ask, what are we going to do? We're outnumbered. And we fight until there's just nothing left to fight for. But
you know what? At York University in Toronto, just a year and a half ago, there's an organization, Halevi Canada, and they had an event where they were bringing in some reservists from the IDF to speak about their experience in the IDF. And you had every single BDS group and Antifa group saying they're going to shut it down and by any means necessary. So we organized to make sure that didn't happen. And they did not get their way. I think Toronto set the example for what other cities that have Jewish communities should do to stand up physically to the threat of BDS groups. We didn't let them push us around or shut it down. We threw them out. And they were the ones who struck first, and we answered.
Well, you know what? That doesn't happen here. Here, they get away with it. And I know that besides York, I think you also have Concordia and McGill. But here again, in America, it's all over. And you know what? It's always on college campuses in the bluest states.
Yep.
And now, UCLA is rife with it. Here in New York, again. And the Jewish politicians, with the exceptions of a few, don't say a word about it.
Well,
Donald Trump.
There's a way to handle it. The way to handle it is for us to go to whatever city it's going to happen in and start recruiting the right caliber in the Jewish community. We do have Jews that work out in the gym. They're strong, they're tough. Some have a background in martial arts. We have to find them and tell them, we need you. We need you now, because they're trying to pick on Jews and shut down the event. We have to make sure that doesn't happen. And that's it, because there are no Jewish organizations that take the lead, the initiative to say, this is what you have to do. This is what you have to do when it comes to that situation.
Right. It used to be that we were told, well, learn how to defeat them with your words. Learn the facts so you can out-debate them. They're not looking for, Linda Sarsour is not looking to win a debate. She's looking to bury you in the ground. And that's how all of the, listen, that punk from Michigan, you think he was there for a debate? He was there to harass, to intimidate, and make all the Jews there feel uncomfortable. You posted that, the second video of him where he was like almost acting like he was a victim. What he showed in that video to his several 100,000 followers is, look how easy it was for me to walk into a Jewish store.
Oh yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to be a copycat.
It's going to happen. And next time it won't be with cell phones.
Well, it encourages others to go do that.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure nobody would stand, just like Aaron was saying earlier, nobody would stand if somebody went to, like, let's say a mosque or a halal supermarket to do the exact same thing. All the politicians and everybody coming out, try it. Exactly. I mean, it was tried here a few years ago. There was a couple of guys that were charged and arrested for harassing or something.
Right.
They never went inside. There was a sign. They never went inside. They were outside, and they were charged.
So you know what happened here a few years ago in New York City Council? Kalman Yeager. He's got a real pair on him. He's a councilman, and he was he said that there is no Palestine. Well, they told him either apologize or you're being censured. And Bill de Blasio said, get rid of him. So that's the mentality here in New York. And I tell people that New York has the best and the worst for Jews. We have the most shuls, the most yeshivas, the most kosher restaurants. But you also have the worst anti-Semitism here, and you have the most cowardly Jews and the most cowardly politicians. And here's where it's the most dangerous. We have and this goes back to one of the things I wrote about in my book about J Street. One of the leaders is Sharon Kleinbaum. She is the rabbi of America's largest gay synagogue. And at J Street, she accused Israel of pinkwashing, of using their I guess, tolerance for gays in Israel as justification or a way to kind of hide under the rug the way they treat Palestinians. There was a gay rabbi from Minnesota who also spoke for about 10 minutes. Again, this goes back to the 2015 J Street conference. And I found him on Facebook, and I wrote him a nice letter saying, you look like a nice guy and everything, and you spoke for about 10 minutes, but are you telling me you couldn't say one nice thing about Israel? He said, they gave me a script. They told me stick to occupation. Wow. So this is what J Street does. They're, if you ever watch an APAC conference, you go there, watch it, live streaming, they put forth what's great of it. It's not all politics. They bring in Republicans, Democrats, Israel technology, the beauty, what Israel brings, offers the world, why it's a nice place to be. And another side, J Street is nothing but beat the hell out of Israel.
Right.
At the same conference, again, that I read about in my book, Jim Baker spoke there. The featured speaker was Saeed Erekat.
Yep.
Dennis McDonough, Obama's chief of staff, gets up there and says, 50 years of occupation must end. Thunderous applause there. So the difference between, being, there are different levels of being pro-Israel. Again, AIPAC serves a purpose. I have my issues with them, and I've never shied away from it. But J Street is unquestionably an anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian organization. They poison the minds of politicians. They tell Democrats, it's okay to vote against Israel. We've got your back. And that's why they, amongst others, are such a threat. Now, again, you have groups like If Not Now. And if you remember, if you watched our campaign last year, you had members of If Not Now go to political events and they say, I'm a Jewish American and I want to know if you're going to commit yourself to punishing Israel, with weapons withholding. If they don't, again, they're a smaller group. But J Street is very influential and very locked into the Democrat Party. There's a conversation I had, and it was off the record, so I promised him I wouldn't use his name or his group. But there is a pro-Israel Democrat organization within the administration. And they told me that they do have some influence within the party, but that they're very much guided and guarded. I want to interview one of them on my podcast, and I promised him it'll be respectful. I'm not here to attack you. I just want to know about your work and, and how we can all work together in supporting Israel. He told me he can't come on my show because it will look like he's working with a conservative group. It doesn't matter if we weren't even going to go there because there are enough Democrats within the Biden administration who don't even want them there. And this is the best that the pro-Israel Democrats have to offer, is a group that advocates for Israel, but they have to kind of mind themselves. They obviously didn't have enough influence to block the nominations of at least, I think, 7 now. Hardcore, anti-Israel, pro-Students for Justice Palestine Arabs in the Biden administration.
Thank God that Israel is strong today.
Yeah.
In every field. And the future is there. It's getting brighter all the time. It's incredible, the accomplishments that Israel has. It's a world leader in the fight against the coronavirus. It's a world leader in technology. It's a world leader in military. It's a world leader in faith. It's a world leader in everything. It helps humanity. And the hate of the BDS, the hate of all these who conspire against the Jewish people and Israel, we've been there before. The Nazis are not around anymore. They're not around. This is a new phase, the BDS. We're winning. Israel's winning. There's no question about it. We have to continue to speak the truth. You're speaking the truth. You have your podcast. There's others that have that are giving that information. We have to, if anything, we have to help each other. Reach out to all who are working towards the same goal without any real ego in this. The only ego is that we feel good that we're speaking the truth. And we have to encourage others who are on the right side to do that and take that step and take that stand. And we will help them out. And we all help them out. And that's how we get stronger. And that's how, the haters, we take action against them. We don't ignore them. But, in the end, we brush them off like dandruff because they represent nothing. They represent nothing good. Anti-Semitism is just horrible. I mean, I have no grandparents because of the Holocaust, and I'm supposed to, love Europeans? That during the 73 war, when the Americans wanted to airlift arms to Israel to help in the 73 war, that they refused American planes to refuel in European cities because they wanted the Arabs to decimate Israel. That's Europe. That's something we have to forgive us for you taking all our homes and properties and butchering our people in your death camps and throughout Europe. We have to feel bad standing up and speaking the truth. No, those days are over. We speak the truth. We have a strong Israel. Think about Israel. Like, it starts off as a kibbutz from the days of Gurion with a shovel digging, just starting.
And the little beach hats.
Yeah, I saw a video of Ben Gurion, an interview he did just so many years ago. I think it was from the 60s to recap his experience. And he said he remembers when he originally moved to Israel, I think in the 1920s, that he was like digging in the Negev. I think it was closer to Eilat, actually, he said in the story. And they were, just doing what it takes to drain swamps and dig and plant and all that. And the word got back to his father in Europe, what kind of conditions he's living in and all that. And the father sent a message to him, come back. And David Ben Gurion said, I had no intention of going back because, maybe he thought it was a horrible life I'm leading. I felt fulfilled. I felt this was fabulous. This is great because he saw where we're headed, that we're going to build something. We're going to build a state.
Who knew? I go to Israel. I try to go every year over the last few years, but there had been a gap. And when I went back now, I didn't recognize it anymore.
Right.
It's become so more modernized.
Beautiful.
When before I went years ago, there was no Ben Yehuda or Machane Yehuda or the trains in Yerushalayim. I didn't recognize Tachana Merkazit. I don't know unless you were there, but I get there. I'm saying, where is it? They go, it's there. I said, no, it's not. I mean, it used to be just buses there. Now it's this magnificent building with 7 floors and restaurants. And I mean, oh my God. So yeah, you know, you go to Israel today, and especially if it's your first time, you'll come back a different person.
It's life altering. It's life altering. It's amazing.
I think they're building, they're doing so much different building, but one thing that's, one of many things that's very interesting is that in Jerusalem, to get to the Kotel, they're going to make it easier for people. They're going to have some kind of sort of like a lift, like in the air, like
not a zip
not a
line,
train, but sort of like you'll be in these suspended.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you don't have to go down the hill by a bus and all that.
Yeah, but that's part of the journey, though. You know, walking on those steps, it's part of the it's history.
Yeah, but there's elderly people.
That's the whole thing. There's elderly, there's the disabled, and
oh, good. So you're gonna put an elderly person on a ski lift? Yeah, that won't give them a heart attack.
Not a ski lift. No, it'll be more high tech than that and better than that. But
it'll be nice.
They're doing so much that to make it welcoming for everyone and the experience for everyone. A lot has been built up. World class.
It's the place to be. It's a place to be. Honestly, Israel. All of Israel is gorgeous. You know, Jerusalem is life altering.
Oh man.
And Eilat is, you know, I mean, Eilat is a lot. It's the Las Vegas of the Middle East. Wow.
Right.
Anyways.
But listen, we have to, you know, cooperate more together, and we'll have you on more often. Maybe I'll go on your show sometime.
Absolutely. I want to hear about what you guys did at York. I mean, that's important stuff.
Yes.
You know, and so when you guys have success stories, by all means, you know, we'd love to talk about it because you know what, we don't have enough of it.
Okay.
I'll send you a video, Alan.
Terrific.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Alan, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well,
pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you. This was
one question for you.
Yes.
Does Meir have more than just the red tie? Because I want to know for next time.
I have a blue. I have different.
I'll call you ahead of time. I'll tell you what color is wearing. See, I don't have that problem.
I got this. I got the red tie because I walked into this suit store, and this is when Donald Trump was president still. So I said, and the elections were going on. And I said, I need a Donald Trump tie. So the guy said, I know exactly what you want.
Yeah.
This is it. This is it.
When Meir wears the red tie, I know he's missing Donald. So I get it. I get it.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you for having me. Shalom, shalom. Excellent.
That was great.
Thank you, everyone, and please share this.
Take care, everybody.